Good afternoon. I'm Leslie Sturmer with the University of Florida IFAS Extension. And this afternoon, we've asked our representatives from USDA Farm Service Agent to meet with us today to talk about the two programs that they have available for shellfish growers in the state. So we have, many of you know, Brandy VanAernam. She is the County Executive Director based out of Gilchrist, but serves Levy, Dixie, and Gilchrist County. And actually, Brandy is then going to go over the NAP program with you in just a minute. Then we are very fortunate because this is one busy lady, and that's Heather Boyd over here. And Heather is the program specialist for both the NAP and WIP programs. So also joining us are some folks that are participating through the Zoom app. They will be asking questions. And in fact, any questions from you, we will have to repeat that because this is being videotaped as well and it can be made available later as a resource. So I think that's it. Let's mute your phones. I guess that's the only thing I have to say. There's some drinks over there for you, some cookies. And we decided to kind of set up so that we talk about the NAP program first. So we'll have that presentation, then we'll stop and have any question and answers from folks in the room or folks that are participating remotely. Then we'll move on and go to the WIP program. Okay, so let's start with you.
Okay, this is pretty basic rules about NAP. Most of you already know them, but we're going to go over. NAP provides financial assistance to producers. Can y'all hear me? NAP provides financial assistance to producers of non-insurable crops to protect against natural disasters that result in lower yield or crop losses or prevent crop planting. NAP is subject to adjusted gross income provisions. An individual or entity average adjusted gross income cannot exceed $900,000 to be eligible for NAP. Payment limitation for any individual producer is $125,000 per year. That also applies to entities. The definition of a producer is an owner, operator, landowner, tenant, or sharecropper who shares in the risk of producing an eligible crop and who is entitled to share in the crop available for marketing from the farm, or would have shared in the crop had it been produced. Landowners, landlords, tenants, contract growers, or anyone else not having valid ownership share of a crop and who do not share in the risk of producing the crop are ineligible for NAP. NAP coverage is available for all eligible natural causes of loss to eligible aquaculture crop types from damaging weather or adverse natural occurrences, including drought. An eligible cause of loss is damaging weather, including but not limited to drought, hail, excessive moisture, freeze, tornado, hurricane, excessive wind. A condition related to an eligible cause of loss. In this context, the related condition must result from the damaging weather or adverse natural occurrence. It is not eligible if it occurs on its own. It's including but not limited to excessive heat, insect infestation, plant disease, or any combination thereof. Oxygen deprivation is not an eligible cause of loss. Both basic and buy-up coverages were authorized by the 2014 Farm Bill for crop years 2015 through 2018. Currently, basic 50-55 coverage is only available for 2019 NAP crop year. For value loss crops, basic coverage covers a loss of value in excess of 50% of the total value of eligible inventory at the time of disaster at 55% of the aftermarket value. fee or request for service fee waiver must accompany the application for coverage in order for it to be considered filed. The service fee is $250 per crop per administrative county, up to $750 per producer per administrative county, not to exceed $1,875 per producer. The service fee will be waived for producers who meet the definition of socially disadvantaged farmer, beginning farmer or rancher, or limited resource farmer by filing a CCC 860 at the time of applying for coverage. Eligible aquacultural species are any species of aquaculture organisms grown as food or human consumption, fish raised as feed or fish that are consumed by humans, ornamental fish propagated and reared in an aquatic medium. To be eligible for NAP assistance, eligible aquacultural species must be raised by a commercial operator on private property or in water in a controlled environment. Private property for a producer to be considered eligible for NAP assistance on aquaculture, the producer must own or lease the property with readily identifiable boundaries. The owner or leasee has total control of the waterbed, the ground under the specific type of water, and does not have control over only a column of water. NAP assistance for value crops is calculated based on the loss of value at the time of each disaster. It is important that a loss of value of any portion of the inventory be determined only if that portion of the inventory is not marketable now or in the future. To determine loss, the value of the crop immediately before is the FMVA is compared with the value of the crop immediately after the disaster, so market value. An example, a value loss crop suffers damage because of a hurricane. To determine whether the unit suffered an eligible loss at the time of disaster, determine the total value of the inventory present for the crop on the unit immediately before and after the disaster. Crop year for all aquacultural species is October 1st through September 30th. Application closing date is September 1st. Acreage reporting date is September 30th. Producer must furnish their aquaculture certification, AQ cards from the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Division of Aquaculture, along with their most recent inspection report of their aquaculture facility. All producers with value loss crops are required to maintain a monthly inventory. These maintained monthly inventory records shall be used for spot checks and in the event of a disaster occurrence. Records are to be kept up to date and available to the county office within 15 days upon request. Failure to provide accurate monthly inventories will result in ineligibility for NAP payments. The inventory after the disaster must be verified by law adjusters. Inventory shall include all sizes or stages of a type or variety of an aquaculture species and will be summarized as one column.
No audio.
They're not having any luck either.
All stages are used to determine the crop value and the crop loss.
I thought you said you was going to wait till 2 to start. Is it past 2?
Inventory records before the owner disaster. A hurricane or tropical
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by the pound or hash sign.
shall request to maintain monthly inventory records.
I can hear you guys on my computer now.
Really?
I was like, oh, it's working now. And I'm like, nope, that's Charlie. And I hear you.
In which to request monthly inventory records. The state office also reserves the right to spot check the records at any time. We have a 72-hour loss notification requirement for hand harvested crops in which clams are hand harvested. At least one producer having a share in the unit must notify FSA of damage or loss through the administrative county office for the unit within 72 hours of date damage or this, you can either come in the office and file a notice of loss on a CCC 576 Part B, or you can notify us by email, fax, or phone call. Notice of loss must still be provided, a written notice of loss must still be provided within 15 calendar days after the disaster occurrence or date damage to specific crop acreage is apparent to the producer. This form is completed in the county office. Failure to report losses within 15 days will nullify any assistance available on the loss or damaged crop. A separate 576 Part B must be filed for each weather event or adverse natural occurrence that causes damage to or loss of a specific crop or commodity. Although producers may notify FSA of losses to hand-harvested crops within 72 hours, this does not remove the requirement to complete the written notice of loss. In the event a 576 notice of loss is filed, the producer must provide records as required by the county committee to determine whether the aquacultural species are produced in an eligible facility or environment. Required records include, but are not limited to, reports of crop acreage or area where facility resides, feeding and fertilization, hatchery operation, leases, on-site, specialized equipment, predator control, production site preparation, production inventory or both, and proof of stocking levels, reproduction, and water quality. In order to prove stocking levels, county committees may require producers to provide copies of all clam or oyster seed receipts. These receipts must be in the name of the insured producer. Natural mortality rates must be calculated and subtracted from the inventory before disaster for establishing the field market value A. Florida State Committee has established the following natural mortality rates for clams. Grow-out clams is 30%, nursery clams 25%, raceway clams is 30%, shrimp, all shrimp 23%, and oysters right now at 8mm size which are suspended midwater and plastic mesh containers are 5%. That may change in the near future as the graduated prices go up. The graduated sizes of clams go up. An example to calculate the normal mortality: beginning inventory 1,000, normal mortality rate 30%, so ineligible inventory would be 300. So your field market value A would start at 700. Aquaculture and bottom seeded clams grown in the grow out stage is an approved practice in the following counties: Franklin, Manatee, Volusia, Brevard, Charlotte, and Lee counties. All other clam producing counties are only approved for bag culture. Sunray Venus variety of clams are covered bottom seeded only in the following counties: Charlotte, Franklin, Lee, and Manatee. Oysters planted at 8mm size are suspended midwater in plastic mesh containers are currently eligible in the following counties: Brevard, Dixie, Escambia, Franklin, Levy, Santa Rosa, and Wakulla. Okay, now we're ready for questions.
So we're going to have to repeat each question so that it can be recorded. So the question is, what separates NAP and WIP? And again, we're going to talk about NAP is an ongoing program. WIP is a special program. We're going to talk about WIP in a minute, if you don't mind. So you had another question, though, that I asked you to just hold off on. So the question is, a person with only a lease agreement eligible for this? And I'm just going to ask you, when you say lease agreement, you're an authorized user agreement? So again, the question is, does an authorized user, are they eligible for NAP? So as an authorized user, all you're getting is on a 1 year basis, year-to-year basis, you are getting approval from the leaseholder to work on their lease. And they do get their own aquaculture certificate card in their own name for that lease for that year.
Then the answer is yes. As long as you have that AQ card, then you're eligible. Yes.
Can we put this on hold for a minute? This doesn't. Did you drive here all the way from Wakulla County for this meeting? You must have had nothing to do.
We need insurance.
Well, you're now eligible. Did you get to that point? Part? Okay, that's this. So we can talk about this now. So Wakulla County was just made available for oyster NAP. Yeah. Okay. So, and we can talk to you separate, or we can talk right now while we're waiting on this. But so his county director. Are we on? So this next question. Pardon? Yeah. So the next. Okay, let's get this on the audio here. So the question from the audience is Wakulla County eligible for oysters for the NAP program? And the answer is
yes.
And the county director where you would go is?
I believe the office is in Monticello, and it covers Wakulla, Jefferson, Madison, Leon, Taylor. Yes. Okay. And there is, okay. There's an acting CED at the moment. The former CED retired, and her name is Melissa Rogers, is who you can ask for in that office. There's also some other program technicians in the office that could help you that I've been in touch with when establishing oyster coverage in Wakulla.
Right. So I have a couple of questions. So define a beginning farmer for NAP.
A beginning farmer or rancher is anyone who hasn't operated a farm for more than 10 years.
Okay, and you mentioned that, again, the deadline to sign up for NAP for crop year is always September 1, but I think September 1's a weekend. So what is the actual deadline this year to sign up for NAP?
The deadline, because it falls on the weekend through a holiday, so anytime the deadline falls on a weekend or a holiday, it goes to the next business day. So it's September 4th, but coverage doesn't take effect for 30 days after that day. So if you wait till September 4th to sign up for coverage and a hurricane hits on October 1st, you're not going to be covered.
So it doesn't attach till October 4th. Okay.
I do have a question. I know that oysters can grow up these but for us plant farmers, we not consider it a station that coming to our plant bags,
Predator control is not.
Okay, so the question is where we have leases where the farmers are doing both clams and oysters. The question from this clam grower is oysters considered a problem for the clam culture? And I guess you might assume from fouling or whatever. I'm going to let you answer it and then I'm going to answer it.
We only cover weather or natural occurrences. So predators getting into your, which an oyster getting into your clam bag would be considered a predator. That is not covered by NAP.
So that's the NAP answer. The other answer is, you are an oyster harvester. Have you not seen all the natural reefs out there? I think I'd be, I'd be more concerned about, is that contributing to your fouling than the few oyster farms that are here, but that's not what we're talking about today. I have anybody else question with NAP? You drove all this way.
I don't know what to ask.
We'll talk later. Anybody online? Okay, you mentioned hand harvest for clams. I just want to clarify because you do have bottom net as one of the gear types for coverage for clam culture. So we are now approved to use handheld hydraulic gear to harvest bottom planted clams, just FYI. That's in state statute.
The only thing that would really affect is the 72-hour notification.
Okay.
So in my counties, that's not going to be an issue, but counties down south.
So it's not a dredge and it's not a hydraulic. So that really has nothing to do with NAP right now since we established that. I can talk to you further about that, but you can use hydraulic, water-driven, pump-driven handheld harvesters for bottom planted clams. All right, Anthony, you had a question?
Right here.
So again, if you want to go back to that slide, the question was, where are you covered? Which counties are covered for bottom planting of clams? And the counties are, I can't read.
Franklin, Manatee, Volusia, Brevard, Charlotte, and Lee.
Because we haven't established bottom planting of clams here as a method is why it's not covered in Levy or Dixie counties. So that leads to another question I had. My last question is, if, let's say, for example, we wanted to do bottom planting here, growers in Levy County, how does that become established?
Well, that would become established in working with you. If we would need research and documentation to prove that the oyster or the clams can be sufficiently and efficiently grown in a bottom seeded environment versus bags. If it's grown the same, if it can, if there's no issues with it, if you can provide documentation that they can be grown that way, then we can take it to the state committee and have them make a recommendation to approve or disapprove for that to be a approved practice. Yes.
All right, any more questions about NAP? So let's move on to the WIP program, which Heather is going to talk to you about, and then we'll address question